Hi, everybody. Mitch Chanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today for this week's Security News Update. In the security and privacy alerts, the nationwide system called Code Red, which is a system that cities and counties and towns use to notify residents of emergencies, had their own emergency, yes. They declared it dead on arrival. Apparently, it was compromised. They really haven't said much about what happened, but they decided to go off and shut it down completely forever. That means the 15,000 cities and municipalities that are using the Code Red system now have to find a different system. Now, what these guys would like you to do, the company that owns it, is migrate to a different product that they are also own. But you have to kind of migrate. All the users have to re-enroll and stuff. And so some number, I will see how many, of municipalities who are not pleased with the fact that obviously they were hacked and compromised, or their residents' information stolen, and now they have to deal with it, are working on ways to nullify the contract basically under breach of contract. They obviously signed up for one platform, Code Red. If the provider no longer can provide that platform, it seems like the contract by definition is breached. In fact, these cities and towns may have reason for collecting damages, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. In the meantime, these guys are having to figure out different solutions for how they notify their residents. In the news section this week, called AI Alerts, ASUS, who is a big provider of, what I would consider low-end networking gear, but apparently they do have some enterprise products. They, of course, have an AI product, because, of course, everybody has an AI product, and they've integrated that into their routers and stuff. But apparently it is not secure. So they have released a patch, which is good if you're using one of their supported routers. And the problem is that most of these routers are consumer grade, and consumers don't patch their routers. They just, however it comes out of the box, they plug it in, turn it on. If it works, they're good. So probably 50% or more of these things will never, ever be patched. So obviously, it's a hook into your corporate system as well, right? If people bring their company laptop home. So I don't know exactly what the best way to go off and convince people to patch their stuff that they have no clue how to do. And then if it breaks, then are you responsible for it? So, it kind of points to why zero trust is so important, and you can live in a hostile environment and hopefully still survive. But if you have any control over things, patching would be a really good idea. Speaking of patching, Google released its AI agent development toolkit called Anti-Gravity. And after 11 days, Google is dealing with multiple security bugs for which there aren't any patches yet. I'm sure there will be. But, it just is, the reports from the white hat hackers who hacked it said, even in the most restrictive mode, it's still not secure. So Google tried. They will succeed ultimately, but not quite yet, I guess. I'm glad I entertained myself. In the CMMC section, interesting question came about this week that I hadn't really thought about before. It says, is your cleaning crew CMMC cleared? And where that comes from is, if your cleaning crew is there at night when you're not around and you have physical CUI, is it locked up so they can't get to it? Is it, in a storeroom where they don't have the access to, they don't have the key to? How do you do that if they're there during the day and you have CUI out? How do you make sure they don't see it? Interesting problem. You definitely need to document how that works. Yeah, I mean, there's ways to deal with it, but it takes some work. And the reference department, CISA has released guidance on safeguarding, what they're saying, critical infrastructures, organizations like, power and water and stuff, from drone threats. Drones are getting, pretty capable if you watch the news on the war in Ukraine and Russia. They released 3 guides. One is unmanned aerial aircraft systems. They don't call them drones. Unmanned aircraft system detection technology guidance. The second one is called suspicious unmanned aircraft system activity guidance. And the third one is safe handling considerations for downed unmanned aircraft systems. So pretty much covering the waterfront there. And if you have a reason to be concerned about drones, and that would be some good reading. And the patches department, Fluentbit is a open source logging product that's used by literally billions of containers. It is vulnerable, and as I said, it's open source. The challenge is, in order to fix it, you have to recompile the containers, rebuild the containers, because Fluentbit is inside the container. Amazon has released a patch version 4.1.1 for, I'm assuming it's for their platform. Whether it'll work on other platforms, I don't know. But at a minimum, you have to rebuild the containers. So not a great situation. Amazon is going to add 1.3 gigawatts of power to its AWS environment. They're planning to spend up to $50 billion doing this. And it's in support of their government sector, their AWS top secret, AWS secret, and AWS Gov, which is pretty interesting stuff. But $50 billion, they're going to build new data centers. And so, they're obviously bullish on the government market sector. If it seems too good to be true department, it probably is. There's a streaming box called Superbox. And what they claim is if you spend the $400 on buying a Superbox, you'll never have to buy a subscription to subscription TV anymore. Well, that's probably technically true because they don't let you have a TV in jail. But, the so-called 2,200 channels that are available are the typical peer-to-peer sharing where you're sharing somebody else's content without permission, without a license. If you get caught at it, it is a felony. It's falls under the copyright law. Could be as much as a $250,000 fine per infraction. So if you streamed 10 episodes of your favorite whatever TV series, then potentially you could be liable for as much as $2.5 million. And it's sold on Amazon. It's sold at Walmart, places like that. Amazon sort of tried to tamp it down, but it's really hard to do. I think they've done probably as good as they're going to be able to do for the moment, but definitely not legal. AI models is interesting. I really hadn't thought about this. AI models conflict with the right to be forgotten law. So let's say your favorite AI model, pick one, doesn't matter, ChatGPT, slurps up some personally identifiable information about you. And you send the nice folks at ChatGPT a letter saying, under the law of my state, I wish to be forgotten. Please remove my personally identifiable information from your model. Well, it turns out for most models, there really is no way to do that. Now, assuming you're in California and you have a private right to sue people over that, if they come back and say, gee, this is too hard to do, we're not going to do it, then you go back and you sue these guys. And I think it'd be pretty interesting. We'll see. I'm sure that will happen in the relatively near future. And they're going to say it's too hard to do. And the judge is going to say, well, the law doesn't have a carve out for you created a monster that you can't control. So it's going to be interesting. CISA issued a warning and a lot of documentation on mobile app security. They're saying hackers are targeting mobile app messaging apps. And their recommendation, interestingly enough, is to use end-to-end encryption, which of course has been the bugaboo of the FBI, and they've been saying got to put backdoors and end-to-end encryption because we don't like it. So obviously the CISA guys and the FBI guys have been talking to each other, apparently. But they also had, another 10 or 15 pages of recommendations for iPhone users specifically. So interesting stuff. And if you're worried about the security of your phone, which, probably is a good thing to worry about, you might want to check that stuff out. Security News Bites. Congress is moving, we'll see how far it moves, to protect undersea cables from China and Russia. we've already seen, right, a lot of destroying of cables, mostly in Eastern Europe. But I think that that's going to get worse before it gets better. Salesforce has another attack. They can't seem to catch a break, unfortunately. Sorry, Salesforce. Hackers are spinning up fake support sites to phish and extort users, like from Zendesk as an example. And they send people malicious emails. They get them to log in. They now have their network credentials, and it's kind of all over at that point. Montana lawmakers are looking for rules for driverless cars. Given that the state doesn't have very many people, it's hard for driverless cars to crash into people. So they're pretty driverless car friendly. So we'll see what happens there. And the UK cyber insurance policies increased their payouts by 230% last year, which, God only knows what it's going to look like this year, because this year is better in terms of increase, more payouts than last year. But it's unclear exactly what it's going to do to the market, although probably nothing good. And finally, AI is white hot these days, and for good reasons. But that doesn't mean there aren't any security risks associated with it. So if you're not sure exactly how to secure your use of AI, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. And until next time, thanks for listening.